Imagine a book so baffling that it has completely stumped medieval emperors, brilliant cryptographers, and even modern supercomputers. Well, today's explainer is all about exactly that, a 600-year-old enigma known as the Voynich Manuscript. We're going to dive deep into the hard science, the physical forensics, and the cutting-edge AI that researchers are using right now to decipher what is easily the most mysterious document on planet Earth.
But hey, before we get into the heavy data, I want you to drop a comment right now with your initial theory on this impossible book. Do you think it's an alien language, some kind of genius medieval cipher, or maybe just the greatest hoax ever pulled off? Let me know down below and make sure you hit that follow button as we unravel this mystery step by step.
Just look at what we're up against here. You've got these bizarre, unidentified plants, like this strange blue and red flora that literally doesn't match any known species on our planet. You've got intricate astrological charts, and honestly, most importantly, this entirely alien script. The text flows naturally from left to right, but here's the kicker. No one in modern history has been able to read a single word of it.
So, to really understand this puzzle, we first need to take a little journey through time and trace where this artifact actually came from, because a book this incredibly strange doesn't just appear out of nowhere, right? Well, actually, it kind of did. The paper trail on this thing is a wild ride. The very first confirmed historical record pops up in 1639. An alchemist in Prague named Georg Berisch was so confused by the book that he copied down some of the glyphs and mailed them to a famous linguist, Athanasius Kircher, begging for a translation. Kircher sailed, but he was absolutely hooked. Fast forward a few centuries, the book was sitting hidden in a Jesuit vault in Italy until 1912, when a Polish book dealer named Wilfred Voynich stumbled upon it. And eventually, in 1969, it was donated to Yale University's Benek Library, where it's securely held today. Moving on to the hard forensics and physical clues. Let's see how modern science fundamentally shifted our entire understanding of the manuscript. For decades, a lot of really brilliant minds assumed Wilfred Voynich just forged the whole thing himself to make a quick buck. But in 2009, that theory was completely blown out of the water. A research team at the University of Arizona took tiny, tiny samples of the manuscript's calfskin vellum and ran them through radiocarbon dating. The results were undeniable. The parchment was created between 1404 and 1438, the early 15th century. This was an absolute game changer. Think about how these hard facts systematically dismantle our best historical guesses. Could it be Roger Bacon, the famous 13th century philosopher? Nope, he died way before 1404. What about Leonardo da Vinci? No way, he wasn't even born until 1452. Could it be a modern hoax by Voynich himself? Absolutely not. Chemical analysis proves the ink is authentic medieval iron gall ink, and the pigments perfectly match medieval recipes. Voynich didn't have carbon dating in 1912. He couldn't have just magically found 500-year-old blank vellum to fool people. So take a second right now and jump back into the comments. How do these forensic facts change your initial theories? Because we are dealing with a genuine, authentic medieval artifact here. And what is truly staggering is the sheer confidence of whoever wrote this. When researchers used multispectral imaging to peer beneath the visible surface of the ink, they expected to find pencil marks, erasures, hesitations, the normal signs of someone inventing a fake language or carefully copying a complex cipher. They found absolutely nothing. Whoever wrote this did so fluently, without a single hesitation, as naturally as you or I would write an email. Okay, so the physical book is undoubtedly real. But what about the text? Let's peel back another layer and check out the mathematical signature of the language. We need to know, is this just random gibberish designed to look real, or is it a highly structured code? To figure that out, cryptographers turn to something called Zipf's law. In any natural human language, the most common word appears roughly twice as often as the second most common, 3 times as often as the third, and so on. If you just mash a keyboard and create random noise, it fails this test immediately. It just creates a flat, chaotic distribution of letters. But when computers analyze the Voynich text, it perfectly adheres to Zipf's law. It has the distinct, undeniable mathematical signature of a real language. But this is exactly where it gets incredibly frustrating. Despite behaving statistically like a language, it breaks the rules of everything we know. There is 0 punctuation anywhere in the 240 pages. Words rarely go over 10 characters. Now, it does exhibit natural word probability, meaning shorter words are easier to predict, which happens in real languages. Yet, it shares absolutely zero linguistic roots with Indo-European, Semitic, or any known language family on Earth. It is a total isolate. And when you really look at it, you notice this flowing, highly structured nature to the script. This isn't just random scribbling. Complex analysis shows that certain key words actually cluster together in semantic networks across the text, exactly like they do when humans communicate meaningful information. The words group together in ways that strongly imply they have specific meanings tied to the wild illustrations on those pages. The structure is literally right there, staring us in the face.
Which brings us to the final layer of our explainer: how modern artificial intelligence is attempting to crack medieval cryptography. I mean, if human cryptographers couldn't figure it out over a century, surely our supercomputers can, right?
Well, it's really not that simple. Modern AI, like the large language models we're all using today, typically needs billions of data points to learn and translate text. But the entire Voynich Manuscript? It's only about 35,000 words. That is literally a drop in the ocean. This tiny dataset makes it a monumental, almost impossible challenge for standard natural language processing. To get around this roadblock, researchers are having to get incredibly creative. They're combining highly specialized, old-school statistical techniques with modern vision models. They use latent semantic analysis to uncover hidden relationships between words and small datasets. They're using vision transformers, not to read the text, but to treat it as an image to identify the unique handwriting strokes of different scribes. And most fascinating of all, they're using hidden Markov models to analyze the sequential patterns of the text, basically trying to mathematically predict what shape should logically come next.
And this is where AI is actually starting to pry the door open. When researchers ran a hidden Markov model over the text, the algorithms identified a remarkably consistent internal logic. Set the model to 2 states, and it finds a structure perfectly compatible with the frequency of vowels and consonants in natural languages. Expand it to multi-state models, and it successfully maps out distinct prefixes and suffixes hidden inside those bizarre glyphs. The AI basically confirms it. There is a rigid, grammatical architecture holding these symbols together. So let's take a step back and look at this enduring mystery. After carbon dating the vellum, multispectral imaging the ink, proving the math of the linguistics, and throwing cutting-edge AI at the text, where does that actually leave us?
It leaves us right here. We are stuck with an artifact that we scientifically know is authentic to the 1400s. We mathematically know it contains structured grammatical meaning, and yet it completely and utterly refuses to give up its secrets. As one researcher perfectly put it, it is, statistically, a language, but linguistically, it is an island. It's a perfect, impenetrable fortress of meaning written by a mind we can't reach in a language that belongs to absolutely no one else on Earth.
And that brings me to my final question for you. If a single medieval author with nothing more than a quill and some calfskin vellum could create a system so incredibly robust that it defeats the greatest cryptographers and the most advanced artificial intelligence of the 21st century, what does that actually say about the limits of our own understanding? I really want to hear your final thoughts. Drop one last comment below on what you truly believe this manuscript is. Thank you so much for joining this explainer. Keep asking questions, and I'll see you next time.